flood insurance as people are trying to cover their losses and repair their damage. And as we know, that's not always easy. Turn back the page to the nightmare of Hurricane Katrina. Homeowners in the Gulf Coast region couldn't get their damages paid for because of disputes over whether their damage came from the wind or from the rain. Well, hurricane season is upon us yet once again. And if you live in a flood-prone area, the time to be thinking about all of this, to be thinking about your coverage, well, the time for that is right about now. And we're going to deal with it. So the first question is this: do you really need it or not? Let's get some answers. And joining me now is Jean Salvatore from the Insurance Information Institute. Ms. Salvatore, thank you for being a part of the program. First of all,
thank you for having me.
Let's answer that question. Do people need flood insurance or not?
Well, absolutely everybody should consider purchasing it. So everybody should talk to their insurance agent and find out what the risk of flooding is where they live. But 90% of all natural disasters in this country have some form of flooding, so the risk is higher than what most people think. And if you live in an area that is low risk for flooding, does not mean no risk, and essentially the policy is going to be less expensive, so it's really something that everybody should consider.
Low risk does not mean no risk, and that's very important because a lot of people will say that when they purchased their insurance, that they were told by their insurance company that they didn't live in a flood-prone zone and they probably didn't need to have it. And then obviously something happens and they did need it after all.
Well, if you live in a flood zone, the bank is supposed to require that you have flood insurance as a condition of the mortgage. So people who live in those high-risk areas generally, not always, but generally know that they should get it. This is just really, it's an important insurance that absolutely everybody should consider purchasing.
Well, let's talk about that purchase price. I had a conversation in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina with Robert Woolley, the Louisiana Insurance Commissioner, and he said that typically people will try to get the most insurance they can for the least amount of money because they're hopeful that they're never going to really need this insurance, and so they want to pay the smallest premium possible. And he says that that's not a smart idea. You say what to that?
No, it is not a smart idea. What you really want to do is to get really good insurance protection. If you are concerned about saving money, and most of us are, one strategy is to take a higher deductible. So if you take a higher deductible, you're going to save what you're paying for homeowners insurance, and then you'll have the significant insurance for when there's a big disaster.
Now, and shouldn't there be some clarity around the topic of if you have wind damage from, say, a tornado or something like that, or if you actually have flood damage from the rain and the water? Because there was a huge dispute over this in the Gulf Coast region following Hurricane Katrina.
Well, actually, in many ways, it's quite simple. That wind, you know, it's caused by a hurricane, a tornado, a bad storm, that is covered under standard home and renters insurance policies. Now, flooding is defined as water that comes from the ground up. So water that from the bottom up comes into your house, that is going to be covered by flood insurance. And our flood insurance policy is something that's provided by the National Flood Insurance Program. But you purchase the policy from the same agent or company who sells you your homeowners or renters policy. It's also important. There's a lot of renters in the Northeast. Renters can purchase renters insurance, and they should, but they can also get flood insurance for their possessions.
There's the issue of a storm surge, for example. The surge is created by the wind pushing the water, and insurance companies have been very technical about this, saying that, hey, look, you know, this was wind damage, not water damage, or vice versa. Should they be splitting hairs that way when people's property has already been ruined? They've been paying their premiums, you know, very promptly over all these years, and then when they need it, they have to fight to try and get it?
Well, this is why people need to purchase flood insurance. And for the people who, you know, are sitting at home and watching these disasters on television, your best protection is to make sure that you keep your insurance policy up to date so that you've told your insurance company about major alterations, additions, you've kept that up to date, and you've really considered very seriously getting that flood insurance. If you do those two things, you're going to be in good shape when there's a disaster.
And you're in with the Insurance Institute. Can you offer some assurances to people that if they go to their insurance company, whoever that company might be, that this company should be forthright with them about trying to tell them what is actually best for them rather than trying to milk them out of a buck?
It's really important that you work with both a really good company and an agent that you have a good rapport with. I mean, you can buy insurance in a number of ways. You can buy it directly from the insurance company. You could go to an independent agent. What is really important is that you get a company that has a really good reputation, that's financially strong, but also that personal interaction is very important. So when you're shopping around for insurance, and everybody should shop around for price, what you want to do is to get the names of a few companies, a few agents, that people that you really respect have had a good experience with. And then you can shop price.
All right. Well, that's sage advice, and we thank you very much for sharing that. Again, we're right in the middle of hurricane season, and it's been flooding out there, and so hopefully this will be good news and good information that someone can benefit from. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Of course, insurance is one way that you can protect yourself, but if you have a personal story that you'd like to share about this or a flooding nightmare, I'd love to hear it. Let me hear from you at cn8.tv. Click on the icon for Art Fennell Reports.